Hello everyone. Okay, I hope we're all having a wonderful day. Okay, this lesson I'm going to go through today is our introduction to political parties, our second topic area. Now, firstly, if you look in the booklet, okay, we've got the exam specification on the first page. It says scrolling down to it. Here we go. And basically, over the next it's about 3 weeks, this is the content which we'll be looking at. So in 3 weeks' time, you should be an expert on parties in terms of their functions and features, their role in a representative democracy. You should know about how parties are funded, okay, and the debates around the funding of parties. You need to be an expert basically in the development and traditions of the Conservative Party, Labour Party, Liberal Democrat Party, and how this has shaped their current ideas and policies, and you need to know what the current ideas and policies are of these three parties on the economy, law and order, welfare and foreign policy. You also need to know about what's called the emerging and minor UK parties, okay, and their role. And then we need to know about their role in kind of context, so the development of multi-party systems and how that implicates government, and things which affect the success or failure of political parties. Okay, so there's quite a lot to do. There's a couple of quite nice videos as well on political parties, and again, it's a nice area. I like teaching the political party area. Now, this introductory video, we're basically going to look at 2.1 and that very first bullet point, the functions and features of the main political parties. And we're also going to have a look as well at 2.4 on that first bullet point, this thing about multi-party systems. Okay. Now, to begin with, we need to know, I say we, you need to know, about what is a political party. And again, if you look in the Edexcel textbook, they have a definition. I'm pretty sure what a political party is. I think it's got some little bullet points on it. And then what you need to do is complete this bit here, where there's like a black blob in the middle. So roles a political party plays in a democracy. So this is the roles and functions of a political party. If you look in the Edexcel book on page 24 through to page 26, they have got on the functions of a political party within a democracy: representation, participation, etc., etc. What you need to do, I suggest you do it like a big spider diagram, put the headings on, explain them in your own ways, okay, what these different functions are. Again, the Jenkins textbook has some stuff on this as well, as does the Lynch textbook. And again, I'd look at all three of them, especially the Jenkins one, alongside this Edexcel one, because it might have a few different examples in there, or it might explain things a slightly different way. So from those two books, you should be able to fill out this first page and have a nice spider diagram. And then if we're thinking about the success and failures of parties, say you've got an exam question like, if I had the view that political parties fail in the UK, something very broad like that, well, these functions are what you would judge their success and failure on. Okay, so it's important that you know what these are, because this is what you're going to judge how successful or how much of a failure a political party is. Once you've done that, there's a Politics Review article which is on Teams called Political Parties and Participation. It's got a picture of Nick Clegg on it, if I remember correctly. And there's some lovely questions here based on that article. So I'd like you please to read the article and do these questions. There is also a podcast on political parties where the person argues that political parties fail. I will send you all a worksheet based on that particular podcast, talking about success and failures of political parties. So that needs doing as well, please. And then thirdly, or fourthly, where we're up to, is this thing about party systems. Now, a party system basically is how many political parties operate within the political system of a country. And I suppose added into this is how many of those political parties have a realistic chance of being in a government or having a big influence on a government. So a one-party system, for example, is a system where really there's only one dominant political party. It's always in power and it scoops up, perhaps the majority of the votes. Think of a place like, for example, the Communist Party of China, for example. Two-party system, two-and-a-half-party system, multi-party system. Again, you need to find out what these terms mean. And again, you'll find it in the Edexcel textbook on the political party chapter. You'll also find it in the Jenkins book as well. And in the Edexcel one, it's on page 44. You've then got a couple of questions based on this. So traditionally it says the Westminster system is a two-party system. Look at the various graphs in the textbook to support those views. And then have a think about, and I think it explains as well why the UK has a two-party system. So there's a number of things on here. I'm going to show you as well some little graphs from some other countries so you can see what kind of party systems operate in these other countries. Okay, so this graph is a slightly less clear version of I suppose, of the one on page 46 of the textbook. But you can see here how the UK has traditionally had a two-party system. So from the 1930s, 1931, up until 1983, that is, you can see how Labour and the Conservative, Labour Red, Conservative Blue, scooped up the vast majority of the votes, and how other parties, the Lib Dems this is, and other parties, kind of were getting less than 10%. So in other words, the two main parties were getting between 70 and 80% of the vote. There was a bit of a change of that in 83 for particular reasons. It then went back to being a two-party system. But then really since 1997, we've had the Liberals in particular, and then we've had UKIP here in 2015 scooping up lots of votes, whereby the two main parties were really getting about 60% of the vote. Hence why it began to be called a two-and-a-half-party system in the UK, because you had two big parties and then you had like a significant other. 2017 though, and then again in 2019, that kind of collapsed, and yet again we've gone back to two dominant parties. In terms of government, which is on the right hand side here, general election results, again you can see it's either been Conservative or Labour governments, which again suggests we have a two-party system. However, in 2010 to 2015 we had the Liberal Democrats in that government as well. So again, that would add to the argument that from 97 up until 2010, 2015-ish, Britain actually had a two-and-a-half-party system, because obviously the Lib Dems were a significant other and then they formed the government. However, since, especially 2019 onwards, again, single-party government again, two big parties again, all the votes. This, of course, some of you might have thought, well, this, of course, only represents Westminster. What about the Scottish Nationals in Scotland? What about the Welsh Nationals in Wales? Which is all very true. So when we're talking about Britain having a two-and-a-half-party system, a nice counter-argument might be that might be true for Westminster, but actually the Scottish National Party runs Scotland. So actually, Britain perhaps still doesn't have a two-and-a-half-party system. Okay, we're going to look at some other things on this PowerPoint. If you look at some other countries, this is Sweden. This is their general election result in 2017. Okay, they have this particular system. We see the different parties and the vote share they got. So you can see their centre-left party got 28% of the vote, the largest one. But then, these two parties on the right-hand side, the Liberals in yellow, I think they are, and I think the ones in blue, light blue, with 19.8, I think they're like the Conservatives. Again, 20% of the vote, 17.6% of the vote. So again, Sweden does not have a two-party system. You might say it's probably got a three or even a multi-party system, because a number of these parties could actually form governments. The Social Party with 28% could link in with the Communists on the left and one of the Greens perhaps. You could quite easily see another system whereby the party with 19.8 sides with the Liberals with 17.6 and they kind of form some kind of government. So Sweden does not have a two-party system. It has a multi-party system. If you look at the French presidential elections, in the first round, this was the results. So again, Macron 24%, the far right, Marine Le Pen 21%, Fillon, the Conservatives 20%, Mélenchon, who was the Socialist, 19.5%. Again, a multi-party system where any four of those parties really could have become the president. But what the French do, they have a brutal system whereby everyone apart from the top two gets eliminated on the second round. So it then becomes a two-party system on the second round, and you can see Macron versus Le Pen there. Germany has a multi-party system, and again this graph shows the results they had in 2017. This is the percent of the vote the parties got. The percent of seats they got in the German parliament was similar because they have a proportional type system. But you can see Angela Merkel's CDU-CSU party, which is two parties merged together, 33%. But you've got the left party, the SPD, 20.5%. The far right, the AFD, 12.6%. The Liberals, 10.7%. The left and the Greens, 9 and 8%. So again, it's a multi-party system. Any of those top four, well, any of those parties actually could have formed a government, because they could have made coalitions where they stuck in. So the SPD, they weren't going to make a deal with the AFD, but they could have made a deal with the Liberals, the Left and the Greens and caused a multi-party government, well, made up of 4 political parties. The CDU could have done a deal with the AFD and the Liberals to form a 50% and therefore form a government. So again, any of these parties could have formed a government, and Germany has a history of coalitions. Under Angela Merkel, the Left Party have been in coalition with the Right Party, and that's actually still in place today. They're so keen to avoid the AFD that Angela Merkel and the SPD have formed like an unholy alliance together to form the German government. So again, Germany has a multi-party system. Now, if you look at the United States, in contrast, that has a very strong two-party system. The Democrats and the Republicans normally get about 95% of the vote or more. Okay? And if you look here at the results for the US Senate, you can see they're all either Democrats or Republicans. Red Republican, blue Democrats. So America has an extremely strong two-party system. So what I want you to do for next week then, basically, is that you need to complete the thing about the features of political parties, do the Politics Review article, and I also want you to do this stuff on party systems, and listen to the podcast and answer the questions around the issue of our political parties doing their jobs properly, basically. Okay, and I'll speak to you all next week.